Peace, family. Y'all know who it is. It's Dr. Bakari K. Lumumba, the progenitor of LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. Back once again with a dual stream with Beacon Network, the Pan-African social media extraordinaire in the home of African-centered news and information. Family, I'm glad that we're back. Glad we're back on the air. Have a great show for you all. I believe an evocative show. I think I saw to see we had some brothers commenting throughout the day, starting at 9:45 a.m. So definitely appreciative of that. Hopefully you all could tap in and be part of the conversation. Once again, family, if you are watching, if you're watching, make sure you hit the subscribe and the like button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Let's make sure we break the algorithm and hit the notification bell for future videos. Once again, if you're watching on Twitter, you can tap in here on YouTube at Lumumba Speaks or Beacon Network. We are doing a dual stream where we're going to have, I believe, a great conversation on is the Black Manosphere closet white nationalism, right? So we're going to get into why we're having this show, why I think this is an important conversation that we need to have, and of course, in the African community. And then, of course, we will open up for conversation. But before we get started, family, I would be remiss in my duty if I didn't share with you all today's Black History Fact. Today's Black History Fact took place 84 years ago today. We're talking about October 23rd, 1940, in which Pele, the greatest soccer player, footballer ever, was born. Right? We're talking about Pele, an Afro-Brazilian brother, was born on this day 84 years ago. Pele, as we know, transitioned 2 years ago. He was a professional footballer who was the most successful league scorer in the world with 548 league goals. He has a total of 1,281 goals in 1,363 games. He was part of 3 Brazilian World Cup champion teams. He's considered the greatest soccer player in the world by most reputable publications. He grew up in poverty, learned the game from his father, playing with a sock stuffed with newspaper. The child who cannot afford a football will eventually become the highest paid athlete in the world. Pele played professionally for Santos in Brazil from 1956 to 1974, and then for the New York Cosmos from 1975 to 1977. So we want to make sure that we're providing some love for our great ancestors. I see Marta Machine jab the like button. Absolutely. That's my boxing trainer, family. Marta Machine is in. That's my boxing trainer. But just want to make sure that we show some love to our great ancestor Pele, one of the greatest Afro-Brazilians that ever lived. Of course, the greatest soccer player ever. We know there is a debate about that today, but I would argue he is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, soccer player today. And I will put him on the line as the greatest soccer player of all time. So just want to make you all aware that on this day, 84 years ago, October 23rd, 1940, Pele, the greatest soccer player, footballer ever, was born in Brazil. He transitioned, of course, 2 years ago in 2022. But definitely want to honor our ancestor. We got some people trolling here. That's cute, but we all know the truth. What's understood doesn't need to be said, okay? What's understood doesn't need to be said. So we're going to get into it, family, but before we get started, as you all know, we have to go over some of the ground rules here at Lumumba Speaks and Beacon Network. As you all know, diversity of thought is welcome, irrespective if you're on the left, you're on the right, or you're right down the middle. Your conversation, your views, your perspectives are welcome here at Lumumba Speaks and Beacon Network. Number 2, no racial epithets, no epithets of any kind are allowed. This is a space of Black empowerment. We believe in the 3 N's of Black power: self-respect, self-defense, and of course, self-determination. So we're going to respect ourselves as African people and not allow any epithets of any kind on this platform. Number 3, facts over feelings. If you disagree with someone, which people are apt to do, make sure you attack the argument and not the person. No ad hominems, attack the argument and not the person. And then number 4, no fundamentally false statements. You are free, okay, to have a perspective, a different perspective, right? But you can't make a fundamentally false statement. A fundamentally false statement would be that LeBron James is the GOAT because Michael Jordan only won 2 championships. That is a fundamentally false statement, irrespective of how you feel. Irrespective if that's your truth, it's a fundamentally false statement. We don't allow fundamentally false statements on this platform, as of course this platform is a reflection of myself, and of course that does not bode well for me. Last but not least, our mission here on the Lumumba Speaks and Be Equaline Network is neither to exonerate or vilify, but to challenge conventional wisdom and re-examine, keyword re-examine, what has previously been accepted as fact. So we're going to get into imperial stats. Okay, LeBron is the GOAT of what, right? So we're going to get into why. So I went on a platform that's part of the Black Manosphere. I think I went on the platform Saturday or Sunday. Wasn't really familiar with the platform. Just saw they were talking about relationships between Africans, African Americans. Said this is space I think I would want to be. Briefly, the platform is called the No Fugazi platform. I'm not familiar with the brother, but we went on there. The conversation pivoted to discussing issues, particularly in terms of first wave feminism. If you aren't familiar with first wave feminism, one of the core aspects of first wave feminism was the advocacy for women's suffrage, right? If you don't know what women's suffrage is, that was women having the right to vote. And of course, they were successful with the ratification and passing of the 19th Amendment. So the brother said, well, one of the reasons that the society is going to hell in a handbasket, and I'm paraphrasing here, was because, in his opinion, women, first wave feminism, women gaining the right to vote, so on and so forth. So I'll push back and say, I don't think that's the case at all. I argue that, in traditional African societies, and as you all know, family, when we say traditional African societies, we mean African societies independent of European and Arab influence. We find that women had the right to vote. I mentioned, of course, in the Mali Empire, the Kurgan Fuga, which is the constitution of the Mali Empire, states that by law, women are to be involved in all aspects of society. The brother pushed back and asked, well, did the women have the right to vote? His argument was you shouldn't be able to vote if you don't join the military. I'm sorry. Yes, don't join the military. I said, actually, they did serve in the military. African people were the first to have women not only serve in the military, but even lead them into battle, so on and so forth. Get sort of Yao Santawa, Queen Nzinga, the Amazons of the Dahomey, etc. He said, well, that's why Africa was colonized, because women had the right to vote and they were serving in the military. So, of course, I pushed back and said, no, that's not the case. I said, I'm familiar with the history of colonialism. And what we actually find is that European powers actually had a very difficult time. They were unsuccessful in their quest to enter the interior Africa and colonize Africa until the creation of the Maxim gun. So this wasn't an issue in terms of women serving or having equal rights or in society or having rights in society that led to the rise of European colonialism on the continent. So the argument he made was, well, yeah, that's a great example. Europeans were able to expand and focus on the military. That's why the economy grew. And I said, no, you're leaving out a lot there. We know that colonialism played a role in Europeans' economy growing, where they were able to enslave people in their homelands, have them extract raw materials, and they would send those raw materials to the colonial countries, mother countries, and then use those raw materials to make manufactured goods that they sold around the world. I said you're leaving a lot out there. We then had a conversation regarding contemporary politics. He argued that he took issue or umbrage with the fact that the politics weren't being influenced by religion, right? Theology is the term we use. And I said, well, there's a reason for that. There's a separation of church and state. This is the First Amendment. He argued the founding fathers were Christians. I said, well, that's a half truth. We know many of the founding fathers weren't Christians. The majority of them were deists, right? They didn't actually adhere to any particular religion, but they did believe in, of course, a higher power. But I said, irrespective of that, it's very clear if you read the Federalist Papers that the founding fathers were very explicit in their desire to create a secular society. I shared with him that this is a democracy, not a theocracy, and that if you lived in a theocracy, I would argue that you would be unhappy, because then you're subject to whoever is empowered, their narrow interpretation, keyword narrow interpretation of the religion. That's the conversation we had. I found it to be very strange that a Black man, of course, would be advocating for these type of views, arguing that we should have prevented first wave feminism from even taking place, even though Black people didn't even have any rights at the time. I think this is a clear example of the need for African-centered solutions to contemporary problems. We know how the Manosphere came into being due to Black men and men in general, issues with the behavior of modern women. Just make it plain and simple. We understand that. But I was really appalled and taken aback by the lack of understanding of history the lack of intellectual inquiry, lack of even argue intellectual curiosity, right? Where one is simply bloviating and believe they're right because they're talking the loudest. That was an issue of concern for me. And so I had a conversation with some brothers and they said, hey, you might want to do a show on it's the Black Manosphere, closet white nationalism. It was a bit but really, it was disconcerting, right? He even made the argument that, if I can remember correctly, he even made the argument that most people shouldn't vote, and that to be able to vote, you should at least own a home or make over $100,000, right? So once again, family, this was the conversation I had on the Fugazi, No Fugazi podcast. Extremely disconcerting to say the least. We tend to find a number of, unfortunately, of Black manosphere individuals promoting these type of white nationalist talking points. If it's not Anton Daniels, it was even Kevin Samuels at some point. We're talking about Tommy Sotomayor. So it's fresh and fit. So it's yeah. So once again, family. So Carter says modern man created modern women. So definitely want you to tap in and be part of the conversation. I'm gonna put the link in the chat now, family. The link is in the description. The link is in the description. The link is now in the chat. Tap in. Carter, definitely want to hear from you. What do you mean by modern man created modern women? I definitely would have hit this. But one of the issues I had when I was on the No Fugazi is, well, why are you trying to use Eurocentric modes of thought or paradigm to solve contemporary issues when those modes of thought created these problems, you can argue, right? So white women, of course, we know feminism started off with white women fighting for the right to vote, not when white women fighting for all women or all women fighting for the right to vote. But we see that was as a result of the retrenchment issues they face, right? The oppression they face, the discrimination they face, their inability to be part of civil society, right? So LMA, I see you. What's the word, brother?
Hey, what's going on, man? Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. You still dribbling down in VA?
Man, I stay in VA, man. I'm never leaving.
No doubt. So yeah, I saw,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, that you weren't in the chat. Okay. I thought you were in the chat earlier. But
No,
okay.
I was in. Well, not. I mean, I just hopped in the chat.
Okay.
Maybe a couple minutes. Yeah.
Oh, go right ahead, brother. The floor is
yours.
yours.
Yeah. You know what? The Manosphere is like one of my. I would say kind of like the biggest disappointment I had in Black men, and I was saying probably in the last 10 years. The Black Manosphere, the Black Red Pill space. I mean, to me, it's sad because I feel like manhood and masculinity in the Black community as a whole. I'm not talking about you or any individual person, but as a whole, I think that there's is a lot to be desired. It's missing a lot of pieces. It's headed in the wrong direction. I think that is lacking. And so, when I think about an idea of a manosphere, like a place where men can kind of come together, build off one another, and just kind of build each other up. I'm thinking to myself like, hell yeah, we need something like that because,
Absolutely, yeah.
like I said, as Black men in this country, we've never been able to fully been able to express, build, develop our masculinity and manhood because we've just been oppressed this whole time, right?
Right.
So of course, when I see the Black manosphere come along, that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting, it's going to be like some pro-Black, it's going to be pro-Black family, it's going to be, hey, how do we, solve our problems? And then you go into these spaces, and it's like, you know, base level, primal, immature,
Right.
anti-intellectual conversations, and it's just like it is pretty much thinly veiled, and I don't even like to use the term like misogynoir because sometimes I feel like it's overused, but like it is blatant misogynoir. You hate this woman because she's black. I mean, you hate women, but then you got a special hatred for Black women, and it's like you're not even doing a good job hiding it, and it's so frustrating to me because it's like a lot of you had well, there are some issues that Black men have that I feel that are legitimate. Some of it self-imposed, some of it is we have an issue with our women, but I think that if you're coming at it with good faith, what I'm saying, you can have these arguments, but I don't think these guys are having good faith. I think, and well, let me go back to my original point. My frustration is like they're intermingling and conflating real issues that black men have with just their base urges. Like the only thing these dudes want is to have sex. Like
real quick, brother.
Go ahead.
Because you're cooking. Could you provide an example of that?
Of what?
When you said that intertwining or conflating real issues black men face with their base urges.
Okay, so like, okay, I'll go with the passport bros, right?
Okay.
So one of the issues that they talk about is that they can't find good women here in America or in the West. Okay, fine. Right. So they're gonna go overseas to find the love that, to find women to have families with, right? But then when you see, like, then it's like all they're talking about is going over there and they're just tricking off their money. It's sex tourism. You know what I'm saying? You're not looking to go over there looking for no wife. You're just looking for, you know what I'm saying? You're just looking for, you're just going somewhere where you can, where you're a dollar, where you can leverage your dollar, right? So you go to some of these, I don't know, politically correct term for third world country, but you go to these developing nations, and now you can leverage your dollar more than you could in America. You know what I'm saying? Your dollar stretches further in, say, Thailand or Colombia than it does here in Atlanta, and so now you can get, more, the women, more appealing women in those countries than you can in America. Okay, cool, but I mean, just call it what it is. Like, you just tricking, and it's just sex tourism. You're not looking for no wife. You know what I'm saying? So it's taking real issue, because there is real friction between the black man and black woman. I'm not going to deny that, and I'm not going to sit up and say it's only the black women. Like, no, black men, we have, we have not been on our square, and that has created friction in our relationship. You know what I'm saying? But these guys,
when you say black men haven't been on that square, that's a broad statement. Could you provide an example?
Okay. Let me see. I would say that. Okay, let me put it this way. One, our I don't like to say this, but like, some of us, did not take education seriously. Now, granted,
Yes, sir. No, go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Yeah, some of us didn't take education seriously. We don't take our health seriously. Sometimes, when we get into, we don't necessarily treat women the best. You know what I'm saying? Especially for, like hitting and quitting, and we objectify our women. You know what I'm saying? And they feel it, and then they react accordingly. So what I'm saying,
I'm gonna interject very quickly.
Yes, sir.
Well, I agree with some of what you said, but I would say nowadays women objectify themselves irrespective of what a man says or does. And I would argue a lot of that is based on not what black men do, but what corporate America says, and that is what ratchet feminism. Ratchet feminism is in vogue. So, and we did a show on that. This may have been before you even subscribe to the channel, but just want to say that the other issue you talk about education. I agree with you in terms of education. We know the numbers show that what you're saying is true. But I always look at the root of the problem. You have to look at who's raising the child.
Right. And I was going to get, and one of the points I was going to bring up was, like I said, and I want to caveat all that I'm saying. Like, we were black people. We were trafficked over, from our homelands in Africa. We were put under brutal, internment camps. You call them plantations. I call them internment camps. And, we were just, dehumanized. All of the negative stuff that you could think of here in America. So yes, and no one's going to come out of that smelling like roses. I get it. So there's emotional and mental damage done to the men. There's emotional and mental damage done to the women. It just manifests itself differently between the two. But one thing I say is not our fault, but it is our responsibility. And and it's like one of my biggest issues that I have with the Manosphere is that it was always the woman's fault, but it was never the man's fault. Like, the men couldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? A man could, rob a bank, and it's like, okay, now, well, his mother raised him wrong. Okay, well, at some point, yes, but at some point, there was a father there that wasn't doing what he was supposed to do, and then he had a mother that wasn't doing what she was supposed to do. Then her mother, you see what I'm saying? It's always.
This is what I would say to that. Typically, and that's why, I had Dr. T. Hassan Johnson on last week so we could focus on real issues. But one of the things we find is it typically is not a situation in which the father is not doing what he's supposed to do. What we tend to find is due to how the court system is set up, family courts, the fathers aren't given access. Or if the mother is engaging in parental alienation, right, he doesn't have much of a way to actually get it. For example, my son got in trouble with the law, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm still paying child support. I hadn't seen my son since 2020. His mother's in contempt of court.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it wasn't a situation like, oh, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. She took him and fled halfway across the country and cut off communication. Then he got in trouble with the law. So it's a lot more than the dad just isn't handling his business.
Right. I mean, like I said,
you're typically looking at parental alienation. We know the CDC studies show that black men are more involved in the raising and rearing of their children than any man in this country.
I'm not going to go into that. But anyway, what I'm getting at is that my point is that there's always seems to be particularly from what I've seen coming from the Manosphere, it is, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just never the man's fault. It's like, it's always somebody else's fault. And I'm not saying that there aren't contributing factors, but then, okay, put it this way. If a man robs a bank, then it was his no good mother, right?
Mm-hmm.
If a woman robs the bank, then she's just, that's just her female nature. I'm like, well, wait a minute.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what I'm getting at. Like, when the black man, you know what I'm saying? Or put it this way, if a black woman is divesting and then going after white men, it's because she's weak because of white supremacy, all this other stuff. It's something deficient with her. Right. But when he is, SYSBM and he's over there dating women, it's because the black woman didn't want me and they treated me wrong and blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
what is SYSBM?
Oh, save yourself, black man.
Okay.
That was that.
I would agree. I would agree.
Yeah, they were the. Here's a little history lesson. They were the original divestors. Like all this talk about like black women being divestors, the original divestor was the SYSBM. Save yourself, black man. It was a movement that was it was. I mean,
when did that movement start?
I mean, I can't say when it started, but that I remember hearing that phrase for years. It was like, if you look it up on YouTube, you'll hear people talking about it.
I asked that question because one of the things that Dr. Tia Johnson talked about in his book was black women were divesting and going overseas, seeking companionship, sex, whatever, back in the 90s. Right? Terry McMillan wrote the book, How Stella Got a Groove Back. So I remember in the 90s. But we do see the same thing even in black female spaces, to where if a black man dates outside of his race, he's a simp, he's a punk, he's a coward or whatever. But when a black woman does it, she's praised. So we see hypocrisy on both sides.
Yeah. But this is because and I get that. But from my standpoint, this is the manosphere. Like there has to be some type of self-reflection that, hey, sometimes maybe it is my action. Maybe I do need to go see some therapy. Maybe I do need to. You know what I'm saying? There seemed to be no sense of self-reflection from what I saw in the Manosphere. And going back to, and to me, it's just an anti-black space. And I don't know if how deep you were in YouTube when the whole Pearly fiasco happened maybe a year or so ago.
You're going to need to enlighten me on the Just Pearly fiasco.
Okay. So Just Pearly thing, she was like this white girl who I think she started on YouTube. She used to react to rap videos, right? And it was just the novelty of it all. This little, Midwest, white girl, like reacting to like, some hood, hard rap or whatever, right? And then she kind of did like this. She went into like the red pill manosphere space. So she was like, she was a novelty because she was a white girl who was talking about black issues. It was black issues. It was black man versus black men versus black women, but she would be like she would be basically acting like almost like a referee in between the two or whatever. It was very cringe, right? And so, and she, like I said, she was she kind of she was like in the like Fresh and Fit, Kevin Samuels, Obsidian Ali. She was in that corner of the YouTube space, but she was like a white woman, right? So that was like the novelty of it, right? Wow, so then she started to make the kind of right wing conservative grift, right? And then she made some statements about like slavery, how she thought slavery wasn't that bad, and that
Oh,
black
I
people were
did
just
see
over
that.
it.
Okay, that's who you're
Yeah,
talking about. Okay.
right. Yeah, she made that statement, right? And so then, Jason Black, he caught wind of it, and then he blew the whole thing up. So now everyone is like scrambling because this is like a PR nightmare. So all of these all of these black men, they were big. I mean, black men were just bigging her up, sharing her videos, reacting to her videos, going. I mean, they blew her up. I mean, black men. This is the Black Manosphere blew her up. She was pretty much about like poised to take over for like Kevin Samuels before like the whole space kind of got deflated. And so when that thing, when that whole thing happened, so now you got a whole bunch of Negroes who got a choice to make. Either you're
Mm,
going to distance yourself from Pearl or you're going to save her. Like that's the choice that you have, right? You bigged up this white woman who was in black people's business,
mm.
and there were a lot of black people who had issues with it. Like you had this, well, very few, but you had this, and then she came and showed her true colors, saying some racist, messed up stuff, and now you got a choice to make. And it was a lot of these Negroes who were, ran to her defense after
What?
she said, yes, yes. And so when that happened,
Wow.
I mean, a lot of people, a lot of black men who were on this type of stuff, I give them credit. They dropped out. But yeah, look it up there. Look up was it Just Pearly Things, Jason Black, and like racism was an exaggeration. And it was like hours and hours. People, would do live streams and like trying to like be her PR and like trying to defend her. And it's just like, I mean, it was like that to me was just like, I mean, it was a low point in black men hit like in black YouTube history. That is like to me that is the lowest point. You had this white woman, say some racist shit, and but then like when she got into I don't know if you know who Six the Goddess is. Six the Goddess and Danica Marie. I'm not sure if you know about those
No,
two.
I've never heard of them.
Yeah, so they're two, and there's like three of them. Like so they're like um three black women who do they all got different shows or whatever, but they kind of like they ride for black men. I'm talking about like they are the most down to earth, cool, funny, smart. Like I mean, but they kind of fellow travelers. Like it's like one of like the novelty of it. Like these are like men issues. They're like the red pill space, but they're being talked about by a woman. That was the novelty of it. So now you have black women who are literally on your side and then caping for you. I'm talking about like they're like when we got killed by the police, they were out there. When they got all of the negative stuff that would happen to black men, they would be on our side. You know, just being a positive force in the space. But then this white woman comes along and says some racist shit, and then they literally back the racist white girl over the sisters that been having their back. I mean, it was the most disgraceful act I've ever seen in my life. I mean, this is like these people are traitors. I mean, they are traitors to the race. I mean, if you were, I don't know if the videos are still up. I mean, I think a lot of people probably took those videos down because they look absolutely crazy. Um, but yeah, like these,
Yeah,
I mean, these
that's
dudes
just
are
hard
traitors
for
to the
me to
race.
wrap my mind
Uh,
around, brother.
I mean, brother, I'm telling you, if you, I mean, you would not be if you would have saw it, I mean, it was disgraceful. I mean, I wanted to grab these men and throw them all in a big tub of bleach and just clear out any melanin they had in their skin because they don't deserve it. After that display, oh my god, I'm gonna see if I can find the videos and I'm gonna put them maybe like in the comment section later on.
Okay,
But it was
okay.
this. I mean, they literally. I mean, you had black men like coming to, I mean, throwing on the cape for this woman. One dude was like sniffling. He was like he was about to cry. I'm like sitting here. I'm like, because this whole thing had blew up. I mean, this thing was big. I mean, because it just spread like wildfire. Because like I said it, but like so many, like she puts out so many videos, so like people just it just kind of went under the radar. And then I don't know if you know who Jason Black is, the Black Authority.
No,
Um,
I
yeah,
don't. But
he's a fairly big, black commentator on this side of on this side of YouTube or whatever. He caught wind of it, put it on his thing, and like I said, that the video got like hundreds of thousands of views, and everybody was talking about it, and everybody was scrambling. And to me, that moment, more than anything, solidified what the Black manosphere was. It is absolutely just Black women. They're anti-Black, anti-Black woman. They have no sense of Black community. It's just they're just takers. Like they're just there to get what they can. They just want sex without consequences. That's all they want. They want cheap sex and without consequences. I mean, to me, they're just incels. Like they're just trying to figure out. They're mad because if they were getting pussy like they thought they were, I don't think they would be as upset as they are. I think most of them are just sexually frustrated men, and this is the way that it is manifesting itself as a hatred towards. Now, don't get me wrong. Like I think that there could be a fact that someone came from poor backgrounds, they came from dysfunctional families, and so therefore their ire is directed at Black women. I can completely agree with that. But at some point, you have to say, okay, I'm an adult. How useful is it for me to have this type of animosity towards my counterpart and still consider myself to be pro-Black? You know what I'm saying? I think at some point you need to get therapy. You need to work things out with your mother. Even if you can, okay, maybe your mother was a horrible person. Maybe your sister was a horrible person. Maybe the women in your community were horrible people. But like we cannot, as men, expect women to forgive us if we're not willing to forgive them. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. We can't expect for women to look at us as leaders if we can't look at, look at us and be understand. Excuse me. Let me say it again. We can't expect women to understand our frustration, our pain, our grief if we're not willing to do the same for them. And that was, like I said, it's just a one-way street. And like I said, in your free time, in your free time, just look up. It happened about maybe about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. The whole thing kind of blew up because she's been kicked off of YouTube because she was doing some crazy shit. So she got kicked off of YouTube. Pearly Things. I'm sorry, Pearly Things.
Oh, really?
Just Pearly.
This is how out the loop I am. You see?
Oh yeah. She got kicked off because she would do, like I said, she would do just like Manosphere thing because she's like has one foot in because basically she's like who's the girl? Kind of like Jay. I'm trying to think of someone like who just came maybe not Elvis. Okay, Justin Timberlake. Well, nah, maybe. But anyway, she hung out with the Black people. They got her notoriety up, and then she switched over to the white conservative side. That's basically what she did. I'm trying to think of who who's the person that we did that with. Like basically, they hung out with us, and then when once they got big enough, then they just said, it's almost like UPN. Do you remember that TV channel UPN back in the day?
Yes.
So UPN used to have all the Black shows or whatever,
right.
And Black people used to watch it. And then once they got popular enough, then they just kicked all the Black shows off and they just switched to, whatever bullshit they got going on.
I am aware of that because at UPN you had Moesha,
Parkers,
you had the girlfriends,
all that shit. Sister, you had all those stuff.
Yeah.
No, Sister was WB, but I think Martin was on UPN too. Yeah, Martin.
No, but anyway, Martin was on Fox. Living Single, Martin.
But
that was on Fox.
Right, but like I said, you see that they got all the Black talent and all this other stuff, and then as soon as they got big enough, they got enough money, they got enough notoriety, they did that pivot. She did the exact same thing, and it was a lot of and like I said, you will be surprised at the amount of people, Black men, who were still caping for her even after she said all that shit, and it was truly disgraceful. Truly disgraceful. I mean, they are traitors to their race. I mean, throw them all in bleach.
Let me read this comment, then we're going to bring Brother Sandman in. And both of you all can answer this question because you all know much more about the manosphere than I do. Kevin, a.k.a. Mr. K, asked a question. Curious question in your experience. Is the Black manosphere active more online or on social media, or is it also very active offline within local Black communities?
I would say that it's mostly online. I think they tried to kind of do like little stuff here and there, but I think most of it's online. But I always say eventually the online stuff is going to spill over into the real world anyway. But yeah, had Kevin Samuel lived, and I think Kevin Samuel, he was adjacent to it, so he had his toe in it. And I think had he lived, I think the manosphere would have been way bigger than it is now. But I think it's pretty much dying now. Well, not dying, but it's on its Long period.
I could say I kind of noticed some things about Kevin Samuels where he was kind of pedestalizing white maleness. I think I did a show. I did a show on it. There was a situation where I even played the clip where he made a comment about, well, only black people are the people who are trying to fight this thing called racism and white supremacy, which of course was a misnomer. There was a situation where his understanding of African history is based on what he had saw in the movie, and his position was basically white people won, so we should just emulate them.
Yep.
Right. So it's like what level? Like, where's your sense of self? Where's your sense of racial or cultural identity? Right. And so matter of fact, this was something that I would argue was sickening. Right. When we talk about a sickening level of racial deference, was the fact that he said, black men, if you want to date out, you need to make sure that you stop doing things when you're dating out that are issues that are just that are behaviors that are germane to the African American community. He actually said this. He said you should shrink yourself culturally if you're going to date out. So that, of course, that is not no one who is proud of who they are will make that comment.
Oh yeah, he said some wild shit. I mean, he said, stuff like what he said, like black women are I can't remember exactly what he said, but the clip was around like scientifically the least attractive women on the planet, and like he broke, and he was just talking about like a Fibonacci. I mean, it was like some straight up like not QAnon, but like 4chan, just shit lord type of comments.
Let me say this. So Mike M says the black manosphere is what's needed to course correct the black culture. So Mike M, this is what I want you to do. I'm gonna put the link in the chat. The link is also in the description. I want you to tap in and I want you to share with us, what do you mean by the black manosphere is what's needed to course correct the black culture? So once again, the link is in the chat. The link's in the description, family. You're here with Dr. Bakari K. Lumumba, the progenitor of LumumbaSpeaks.com. And of course, Bequeline Network, the Pan-African social media extraordinaire, the home of African Center News and Information. We're having a great conversation this evening regarding, is the black manosphere closet white nationalism? Tap in, be part of the conversation. Make sure you hit the subscribe and the like button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Make sure you hit the notification bell as well. That man by nature solve problems. The black manosphere is solving problems. I would argue that they're not solving problems. That's why I want you to tap in. I would make the argument, of course, Mike M says man by nature solve problems. The black manosphere is solving problems. I would argue they are solving problems because what they're seeking to do is emulate particularly white Christian nationalists, man, who created many of the problems that we see in society today. So if you want to educate them, you have to bring with that, of course, you have to talk about xenophobia. You have to talk about genocidal violence. You have to talk about ethnic violence. You have to talk about a parasitic culture that was so violent and vile that it created 2 world wars. Right, so that's what comes with that, right? But even the concept and idea that men by nature are problem solvers, right? And we could argue, we all know that men by nature typically are more logical and women are more emotional based. However, like I stated before, in African culture, we find women having agency politically and socially and economically to be someone who is a problem solver. One of the greatest examples I offer is Yaa Asantewaa. We talk about the War of the Golden Stool, the last war of resistance against the British Empire by the Asante Empire. And our brothers and sisters in the Asante Empire, they were about to capitulate. The British showed up and said, we want the Golden Stool, which would solidify us conquering the Asante people. Yaa Asantewaa was 60 years old. She was a queen mother, and she's told the men of the community, she said, if you give these white men the Golden Stool, right, then you should exchange your undergarments for mine. This is what she told them, right? They said, you're right, and not only are you right, we're going to make you leader of the War Council, and the British were never able to retrieve the Golden Stool, right? So we find that in our culture, women have agency and space to do that because they're socialized to be those type of women, right? So, so real quick, LMA, Kevin, we're going to get to your question, but I also want to give Sandman a chance to speak because he's been waiting patiently. Brother Sandman from the Illidale, what's the word?
Hey, what's the word? Yeah, I'm over here sitting here enjoying the little Sixers game, starting off the season, and listening to your podcast as well. So the other day, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I was just browsing through my YouTube feed, and I just so happened to see you on that podcast with the other dude. I said, "Oh wow," because I seen that other dude's podcast before, and it's normally like some type of, Manosphere type deal where he talking about women do this, women do that, black men do this, men do that, men are above women. I've heard him say this on a number of occasions, whenever I, just glimpsed at his podcast from time to time. And I seen you and I thought it was going to be an extension of the discussion that you had with Dr. T. Hassan Johnson when you were talking about the disenfranchisement of the black male in the United States and how they're being treated. So I thought that you were going to be able to give him some type of, or y'all were going to try to collaborate on something to have an in-depth conversation about something. But I was disappointed that, his lack of knowledge about, African American culture and African American history, that it just seemed like to me that he felt it seemed like to me that he just felt like he was insecure, that you made him feel stupid. So the only way that he can combat you making him feel stupid was by to reject what you were saying or try to belittle what you were saying as a comeback. That's
Well,
what I
and that
felt.
wasn't my goal at all. I actually, because like I said, I had never been on the platform, so I actually thought we were going to have an intellectually robust conversation, right? And one of the things, there was a white guy that was on the platform before me, and he said he was an advocate for young boys in schools. I don't know if that was true or not, but the brother said, "Well, that's something women do. Women are the type of people who advocate for the oppressed and the marginalized." And I'm
Right.
so I was like, you never heard of Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Bishop Henry Manil Turner? So like, what are you talking about? So like, it's just it was almost like I said, it was disconcerting. It was disheartening to hear a black man speak and having no concept or understanding of history.
Yeah, it was at first when I first turned it on, I seen the white guy, using a whole bunch of racial epithets,
Right.
the N-word this, N-word that. And I'm like, why would he have like a distinguished professor on his platform and this idiot white guy, just trying to push his platform, speaking this ridiculous stuff. And I said, this doesn't make any sense. And then
Right.
I think you left the platform or he sent you down and that the white guy left. And then you came back on and I started to listen again. I was like, oh, okay, let me see what's going on. And then particularly when you said that he brought up the allegory about Adam and Eve,
Right.
and
Yeah.
you stopped him and you said, that's a fairy tale, right? And at that point, I think he felt like that you made him look stupid by saying that.
Yeah.
And then from that point on.
And I'm glad you brought that up, said Brother Sandman. And for the people watching, the brother brought up the allegorical story, as Brother Sandman said, about Adam and Eve. And I said, well, that's a mythological story. And he stated that because of Adam and Eve, that's why men are simping today. I said, I don't see the connection between the allegorical story and classical Mesopotamia and what men are doing here in 21st century America. Like I just said, that's a hell of a stretch. I don't see how you're making the connection. And I have to make the argument that I would argue that they're able to make those type of grand leaps, right? Because they don't have people on the platform who are actually knowledgeable like we have on this platform, right? One of the brothers told me, he said, the reason why you have an educated platform, an educated audience is because they're a reflection of you, the host.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly, and people who are have a thirst or a energy for wanting to have some intellectual conversation will listen to platforms like this because it feeds their brain. You know what I'm saying? It helps them think deeper about different topics. But if you're on a lower vibration, like the people that probably listen to that other guy's podcast on a regular basis, they probably can't think that in depthly about a lot of issues, or they're too mentally lazy to go there, but it's interesting how this all came about for me in particular, because just a few years ago at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, I was going through a lot of hardships in my life, and I was down. I had got sent down on a mission to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, to do some work for the military. And I was just browsing through the YouTube feed, and I found this guy called Jesse Lee Peterson. I don't know if you
Oh
ever
yeah, I'm
heard of that
familiar with
guy.
Jesse Lee Peterson. Yeah, Beta. He be saying all
Yeah,
that.
yeah, big. And I thought at first, I thought like, man, this guy is silly, what he's talking about is funny. But then again, he did bring some truth into what he was saying. But he also had like a male chauvinistic type view about a lot of things. But
And
at
a
the
white
same time,
nationalist view. Yeah.
yeah. And then I started, looking even deeper. I was like, man, that was an interesting. I didn't know they had, so many this Black Manosphere on YouTube, because I wasn't really on YouTube like that before I seen Jesse Lee Peterson. And then I started listening to other ones, and then that's when I found the Pan African platforms like search for your Who and other guys that do platforms like that. And then I started listening to you guys as well, and I would browse and find different platforms. But yeah, just like Ellen May was saying, a lot of them, when it comes to this manosphere stuff, they're kind of all regurgitating the exact same stuff. Me personally, I think, that guy, I don't know his name, but he was just regurgitating a lot of stuff that I heard Jesse Lee Peterson saying years ago, and he's probably like the godfather of this white nationalist, if you can't beat them, might as well join them type attitude.
Right.
That we see a lot of
Emulate them,
African American Black men going through, because they're feeling like they're being ignored by society today. So, but in my opinion, though, I know that Black women have agency, but at the same time, I feel as though men are the stronger vessel. I mean, Black women are powerful and are strong and are very intelligent, but at the same time, if it's her main job to give birth to children, and raise children, then it got to be the man's job to lead the family, into a strong position. So I have a tendency to not try to blame women for any of the hardships that the African American community or the African community in general might be going through, because I feel like, it's our position or it's our job to overcome those hardships and get us in a better position.
Well,
I mean,
so this is what I would say to that. So I can agree with you. It's the man's job, right? But the woman has to choose to actually listen to what you're saying, right? Yeah. She has the freedom to make whatever decision she wants. And I always say, well, you can make whatever decision you want, but the consequences that you face are the consequences that you face. So if a man says, hey, honey, don't do that. I've been in relationships, honey, don't do that. If you do this, it will result in this. They don't listen. They get fired from their job. Hey, that's not on me. That's on you, because you made the decision to act in a manner that was unbecoming and untoward, and as a result, you lost your job.
Right. Well, that's the thing, though, because as a unit, if men don't combine and work with each other to create that culture, then the woman won't follow.
Well, no, so that's where I would disagree. The women following isn't on us. The woman has free will. She could choose to follow whenever she wants, just like anyone else. And his thing, people are going to be people. People are going to do what they want, because we live in a society in which people are allowed to do whatever they want. So you could do everything you're supposed to do, just like we find with some women. They could be as pretty as Halle Berry in her prime. She could cook like your grandmother. She could be as feminine and submissive as a Proverbs 31 woman. She could have a box like Ocean Spray, and some man would still cheat. We have to understand that other people's behavior is not a reflection of us. It's a reflection of their behavior.
Well, yeah.
For example, I give another example. I have children. I understand that when my children are over 18, they're responsible for their decisions and their behavior. I control the process. I don't control the results.
Yeah,
that's just the reality.
So, like, all right, that's where I disagree with you at, because like you're a professor of African studies and African history, right? And one of the one of the key things that African culture or African religious system believe in is that, you know, the all is one.
Right.
They
That's
believe
true. That's
in
true.
like everything is connected, and that's the type of angle that I'm taking. I yeah, of course, you know, all people will have their own decision to make, and she could decide to uh, listen to you or not. But there's
Right.
this thing called the butterfly effect, where something that happened 2 generations ago can affect her thought process today. You know, so and we're all connected. You know,
Yeah, you're talking about epigenetic. But here's the issue, and I understand where you're coming from, but my view is we don't live in that type of society, right? So what you're speaking to, if we were in a traditional African society, if a woman or anyone, not just one, if anyone behaved in a manner that was incongruent, right, in contravention of the values of that community, that person will be socially ostracized. Literally,
right?
we can't do that now.
Mm-hmm.
That person, you can say we ain't having nothing to do with you. You can say, okay, I'm gonna go across the street and get a job. Well, now what? Right?
Well, let's say the tables were turned, right, and instead of, you know, Europeans coming to the African coast and selling us to the Americas as slaves for, you know, those years. What if uh, the you know, the shoe was on the other foot and we did that to white people, and then we disenfranchised them for, you know, years or centuries or what have you, and Jim Crow and all this, and made them second class citizens in a country where we were the dominant majority inside the country, where everything went through us. You know, we were in control of everything. How do you think the white woman will be acting towards her
Well,
white man?
I don't. Well, so I'm glad you asked that question. One, I don't like to speculate, but what I do know is that white people have been in a dominant position in society since its inception, and white women have been rebelling against their men since the inception of the society. Right? So, once again, I don't want to use a European model for African people solutions. The other issue, I see what you're saying, Carter. Once again, as I stated, tap in the links in the description, links in the chat, be part of the conversation. I disagree because any man who's had a lived experience as an adult, you know, you could do all the right things, and the woman can still choose to do whatever she wants. I've experienced situations, pay all the bills, you're only paying all the bills because you want to be controlling. We're equals, I want to pay 50-50. You pay 50-50, then it's, well, you're not paying all the bills because you're not a real man. That's not how the real world works. It's not cookie cutter, cut and paste. People are going to be people, irrespective of what you say and do. That's a reality.
Yeah, that's absolutely a reality, and also
So
the
it's not as
reality
simple
is
as,
that
oh, if I stand on my BI and handle my business, this woman's going to align with XYZ. That's not the case. That's just not how the world works. That's not how people are. That's not
yeah,
the
that's
world that
true.
we
But
live
it's
in
just that
2024,
we
particularly here in
live in a
America.
world where we just live in a world in general where, you know, things, even if you do everything right, you're still going to have hardships that you have to overcome. And sometimes those hardships, if you look at them in a positive way, you could say, well, those hardships are making me a stronger person, making me a better man for maybe even the next marriage that I have, you know, or the next life that I'm living in. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, everything's connected. You know, so that you could turn a negative into a positive.
I'll give you an example, real world example. I'm teaching in class. Young black woman becomes disrespectful in the class. So I was talking crazy. And I run a tight ship. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, do I look like the type of person that allows people to disrespect me? Right? Oh, and she had to catch herself. And I said, right? So what we tend to find is a lot of people are behaving this way because they live in households that support and allow this behavior. So this person's behaving this way long before you even come in contact with them. This has been ingrained. They've been incarcerated. They've been almost, you can even argue, indoctrinated to behave and act that way. It's a reality. We know when we were growing up, if you got in trouble at school, no matter what the reason, your parents got a call at school, that was your ass. Right? Now we find what? Children get in trouble at school, the parents going up to the school and trying to fight the teacher.
Or maybe, her parents put her on birth control medicine when she was a teenager. Now her hormones are all jacked up and
We
she's
we we we
PMSing. And she
we
came
don't
into her class frustrated that she couldn't keep up with the work. And she
we
got
would want
she
we don't want to speculate because that wasn't the case. So we don't want to make
How do
excuses
we
for
know that
someone's
wasn't the
deviant
case though?
behavior. We
But
don't,
we know
and
that women
even
tend to be emotional due to
right, but
hormones though.
even if that is the case, you still can't behave that way in any part of civil society and not be held accountable for it. So that's not. I have a daughter, right? My daughter was with me when she started her cycle, right? In the real world, you can't use that as an excuse to engage in deviant behavior. They're going to kick you out of school if you do something like that, and out in society, you're going to get hit with a disorderly conduct. If you're still acting in a contemptuous and cantankerous manner, they're going to take you down to the county jail. That is not an adequate defense. It never has been and never will be.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree. And you could even understand why in some Muslim countries in Sharia law, they'll, physically control their woman if they get out of hand. And you go look at this from a Western perspective and say that's wrong that you're not allowed to hit women. You know what I'm saying? But you under now you might look at it from a different perspective. Like,
Well,
yeah,
no,
sometimes.
I wouldn't look at it from a Islamic perspective because, as Dr. John Henry Clark stated, Abrahamic religions are male chauvinist murder cults. So, no, I would look at it from an African-centered perspective, not from an
Okay.
Islamic perspective, because Islam is a virulently anti-black religion. So I
So
don't want
if
to adopt their concepts and ideas.
what would be our reaction in a African centered culture if a woman got out of line?
Well,
Like,
it'd be the same as if anyone behaved in a manner that was in contravention of the values of that community. They would be excommunicated.
oh, okay, so they would just be kicked out.
You're done. We have nothing to do with you anymore. You are a vagabond.
Yeah, and that would be enough to, like, influence people to act right. If they don't want to
Yeah.
be ostracized, that'll be
Yeah.
like, that's like a death sentence,
Mm-hmm.
because everyone needs each other to
You become
survive.
you become a social leper.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
you ain't got to be smacking people around. Matter of fact, some of the best advice I ever got was if you want to beat her, leave her.
mhm.
Right? Because if we say women are different from men, women address issues, they look at things differently from men. So let's say Mr. Sandman and let's say, I'm going to use a colorful example, okay? Let's
Okay.
say me and you, what part of Philly did you grow up in? South Philly?
I grew up in North Philadelphia.
North Philadelphia. Okay. Broad Street Bully. I got you. So let's say we in North Philly. We say we in Bernard Hopkins' old neighborhood, Germantown, right?
Okay.
And I'm just talking reckless at the mouth to anybody I come across. At some point, somebody gonna put their hands on me, right?
Or worse, yeah.
Or worse, right? Typically, a man realizes, let me shut the French toast up. I got touched up. Somebody threatened to pop me. Unfortunately, what we tend to find with women is, well, whatever. I don't care. You only hit me because I'm a woman, because you ain't a real man. Da, 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 and they can keep talking. So what that just doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Right.
So
Well, the issue that we're having,
you excommunicate.
but the issue that we're having is when we take that stance of excommunicating people, then we have people running around our society or in our neighborhoods who have been excommunicated, and being that they're excommunicated, they're the ones that's causing all the trouble.
Well, I don't know if we have a way to quantify that, right? And I've stated this time and time again that a lot of households in our community, unfortunately, are criminal incubators, right? So matter of fact, there was an article I read. This probably was 12 years ago in the New York Times, where a young man from Chicago, he wasn't a young man, he probably was around our age, said he was a lifelong drug dealer. He said he heard Minister Farrakhan speak, and he wanted to give up a life of drug dealing and actually do something productive with his life. He said his mother cut him off because he stopped selling drugs. This was in the New York Times in 2012. So, but real quick, let me LMA Kevin, aka Mr. K, asked a question. So, do you sometimes feel that watching the Black Manosphere is like watching Jerry Springer on reality TV?
I don't know. Like, I feel like at least with Jerry Springer or reality TV show, there was a hint of like it's scripted. you know. But
Yeah.
with this with the Manosphere is like real. Well, actually, I can't say that because one point that I wanted to make with the Manosphere that I think made it so toxic was the YouTube partnership program. The fact that you can get paid for this, and I think that that just ratcheted up the content. Like in a sense, like let's say you're into fitness, right? So if you want
Yes,
to tell
sir.
someone to lose weight, what's the three main things, right? uh, Lower your consumption of food, exercise more, get good sleep, right? Those are the only three things you really need to lose weight, right?
Mhm.
But you can only say that so many ways until you got to start, sprucing it up to get the to say something different. And I think that one of the things I would give the Manosphere, I think in the beginning it started off it started off fine, right? But then as more people trying to come in and make more money, they got to ratchet up the content. So they have to say things that are more inflammatory to get to chase that algorithm. And
Right.
I think that so many people they just don't have and you could put it on the pod, but I think that some of these people they're just so broke and destitute that like just listen, if I can, it's like I'm a nobody, but if I get on this phone and put out this video and just get people riled up, I can make people making bank back in 2020 and 2019. They were making bank, so it's like, well, shit. All I got to do is just get up here, talk shit about black women, and I can make money, get hundreds of thousands of views, and that's all people did. They were just bouncing around the same talking points for like a year straight, and people were making bank. And so, what does that mean? You got more people coming in, people with um, a skewed moral compass, and they're just willing to say whatever they can say to get people riled up, to throw red meat to their prospective audience. The
Right.
super chats start coming in and all this other stuff. So there's no reason to ratchet it down. Like if I can get paid, let's say $5,000 a month for talking about big, what I'm saying, oversized black women, you know what I'm saying? But then if I talk about, because even some of the guys I want to say MTR, he mentioned this point, and I
Wait,
got
wait, wait, wait. What is MTR?
I'm sorry, MTR is the mediocre tutorials and reviews. He's one of those
Okay.
Manosphere channel or whatever. And he even said it. He's like, listen, if you even look at my views, when I'm talking about black women, I get 100,000, 200,000 views. I talk about, saving your money and investing. I get like, what I'm saying, like 100 views. You know what I'm saying? So people are just chasing the algorithm. Like they don't, I don't think a lot of these people, even going back to the commenter's point about whether this is reality TV, I guess so, because I don't know how much of it is real. I don't know how much of it is real and how much of it is people just um, chasing the algorithm because was it sex sells, violence sells. If it bleeds, it leads. So if I can just
Mm.
say something inflammatory, I mean, and this was clearly what was going on. If you were looking at this space soberly, you can tell that a lot of it was just. I mean, you will get people saying some off the wall, just wild shit, and the super chats were coming in, the views were coming in, and it's just like, okay, well, fine, you made $1,000 off the YouTube program, but how much damage did you do to your community? That little, because there was, little boys are going to watch this video and then they're going to internalize the anti-black woman rhetoric that you're
The
spewing,
content
and they're going
off.
to
Yeah.
internalize it, and this is going to manifest in them when they, in 10 years, when that little 8-year-old boy who's just on YouTube because he ain't got nothing else better to do, and then he's going to hear this shit, and then he's in 10 years when he turns 18, that's how he's going to view the world, and that's so messed up, and these people don't care. You know what I'm saying? And it was like I said, it was truly disgusting. Some of the stuff that you would hear, and it was just like, that's just the algorithm. Like, and don't get me wrong, I understand, like, as men, there's some things women can do that would really just get us riled up. Certain things we hear that just get us fired up. But at some point, like, with a balanced man, you're gonna have some fiery stuff, but oh man, it's just B, she did me wrong, blah 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 blah. And then, maybe a couple of hours later, like, you know what, my homegirl, I love my wife, my daughter, my sister. You know what I'm saying? There's positive and there's negative. There's a balance between the two, but you don't, you know, take the negative and just smear everybody, with that one negative experience. But that's just what the Manosphere was doing. And like I said, it's just when it's like they don't care. Like I said, the people who they don't care. There was one guy. He was with the white Manosphere. You may have heard the name Sneeko. He
I
was
haven't.
one of these. Yeah, he's one of these. I think he's like Hispanic or Filipino, something like that. And he's right wing. Excuse me, right wing. White nationalist and all this other shit. And so he was doing like some little live stream or whatever. And he was like, I think it was a football game or a basketball game or something like that. And because like think about these YouTube stars, they're huge. Like YouTube stars are more famous than like back in the day. Like if you saw Tom Cruise, you would be like, oh damn, that's Tom Cruise. But like these guys, more people probably recognize like people under the age of, let's say 30, like say a second, under 25 will recognize Sneeko before they recognize Tom Cruise. You know what I'm saying? These guys are huge, like, in terms of that. And that he was just having he was doing a vlog or whatever, and these kids ran up to him and they started like repeating back to him what he was saying on his talking points, and you can kind of see the look on his face where he's just like, damn, like he was saying like these women they ain't nothing but bitches and hoes, and these kids are saying this to him, and he's like got his look on his face like, damn, what have I done? He played it off, but I think at some point there's some part of him deep down that realizes that damn, these kids were listening to me. I'm thinking I'm talking to adults, and there's children listening to me. Now that changes behavior, you know what I'm saying? But now it's just like there are children who are watching this type of stuff, boys and girls who are watching this type of stuff, internalizing it. And now in 10 years when they grow up, what type of person are they going to be? You know what I'm saying? Like I said, to me the black manosphere, whatever it was in the beginning, doesn't matter. It became a cesspool of coonery, anti-blackness for me. Like to me, I throw them all in bleach.
Let me
Bleach
ask
their
this
skin,
question.
take their melanin away. They don't deserve
And Rich the
it.
African elder, you could tap in, be part of the conversation. The link is in the chat. The link is in the description. And if you're watching, family, you're watching a dual stream, LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black Empowerment Initiative where we believe we could gain a competitive advantage by always betting on Black. And of course, Bequaline Network, the Pan-African social media extraordinaire, and the home of African-centered news and information. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And since you was talking about Super Chat, let's make sure you hit that Lumumba Speaks Cash App, $ Lumumba Speaks, right?
Yeah.
Let me ask this question to everyone. And we're just gonna make it plain, is the Black Manosphere promoting are they closet white nationalists?
A large portion of them, I would say, from what I saw back in the day, a large portion of them, I don't think they were white nationalists. Some of them were. Some of them absolutely were. Some of them, wanted to be the white man's lieutenant. There were quite a few of them who wanted to do that. A lot of people, I think a lot of them, a fair amount of them, wanted just I don't want to use the word black nationalist because I, think of myself as a black nationalist, but not in the sense that they do. Like, I think that they want to rule over women, and I think they want the access that they see like the higher echelon of men have with women. I think they want that. I think they just want to be able to, well, to your question, do I think that they're white nationalists? Maybe not, but they're damn sure close.
And I would say that, just like you were saying, that that criminal culture is incubated inside the home. The white nationalist attitude is also incubated in the home as well. So how were those black men raised? Were they raised to say away from black people? They're this, they're that. I've met a whole bunch of black people in my life who, look down on other black people for whatever reason, and it was just raised like that. They'll tell you that. My mama told me that, you niggas ain't this, you niggas, hey, excuse my language. I know you don't say it.
No, we don't do evidence, but I understand you were quoting what someone told you.
Right, yeah. So that's also incubated in the house too. And then when they go into the real world, they take that, they think that was their, that's how they were raised, and that's how they learned to navigate through the world. They didn't have appreciation for it. They weren't raised to believe in themselves or believe in black culture. They were raised to believe that, white culture is better than black culture, and if you want to be successful in life, then you need to act white.
Right, and I'm glad you brought that up because Dr. Cross, William E. Cross, He's the one who coined the term digressions theory, where he talks about, the steps that it takes for someone to develop a healthy Black identity. Digressions theory. He talked about that one of the reasons we find a lot of Black people doing exactly what you stated, but the same man, identifying with the power structures because they believe it's economically expedient for them to do so.
Yeah.
So you're cooking with fish grease, brother.
Oh, that's the first time I ever cooked with fish grease.
Yeah. So
Lumumba, can you bring up the comment that one of the guys made? I think it was
I'm
Kevin?
gonna bring that in right now.
I was trying to read it.
Yeah, LMA. So do you think it's possible that the Black manosphere got co-opted over time as it grew in notoriety, especially as you describe how it started off as empowering, then it evolved into toxic chaos?
I mean, I don't know. I wasn't in it from the beginning.
Real quick, Brother Kevin, if you could tap in, please do, because the question would be co-opted by who and how?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but I remember, I want to say there was a few people who said that they were there from the beginning, and the more I listened to them, I think you kind of get an idea of who the old heads are in the movement, and the more I listened to them, the more I was like, yeah, from its core, a couple of people came in and ratchet. I mean, because like I said, these guys was just like a small, they were a small, section on YouTube or whatever, just guys on the self. There was no production value with a lot of these guys. It was just, commentary. Some of these guys were good with the video essays and stuff like that, but most of it was just, run of the mill commentary. Just a dude sitting on his porch with his phone, talking into the ether. That was most of it. I think later on when the production value started getting added in and people started, because I think even a couple of guys said they were just doing it for the love of the game. They weren't doing it for the money. I think when the people came in with the money, I think it ratcheted up what was already there. I don't think, in my opinion, that you may have some people who listen to it longer than me and more into it than I was. But for me, it was from the inception, the seed was there. The anti-Blackness, even if it was small, maybe it was subconscious, but it was, to me, it was there. It was the anti-Blackness, anti-Black woman. It was there. It was just maybe, like I said, maybe it was veiled, maybe it was concealed, whatever. But like I said, once you started seeing the newcomers coming in, the people who were putting production value into it, once that started taking off, it was very thinly veiled. You can kind of see that, you can kind of see where they were coming from. Like I said, Lumumba, I wish you were there. Like I said, you were. I wish you were there, because it was that 2020 to 2022 run was a wild. That was a wild time, man. That was a wild time, and we're gonna pay for it. And I think that Black men, the Black community, we're gonna pay for that, because the ideas that were spewed out. I think there was, if you're a child and you hear that type of stuff, man, it's gonna be years before you get that out of your head. You know what I'm saying? Before you have enough positive and world experience to negate some of the stuff that was, especially because, you can listen to it for hours and hours on end. So it was, we're going to pay for that.
Real quick, Mr. Freetown, you're not off topic. Appreciate you seeing the live. Appreciate you reading the title. I appreciate you commenting, and would love for you to tap in and be part of the conversation. So I'm going to put the link in the chat. The link is in the description. Tap in and be part of the conversation. You're watching Lumumba Speaks, and of course, B Quillan Network.
I mean, and to that person's point, I mean, yeah, you can kind of see that the Manosphere kind of started off as, the Black Manosphere, kind of, then there was the white, and then before the white Manosphere, before that was the MRAs, the Men's Rights Association, and then before that was the
those were white nationalist groups. I do remember the Men's Rights Association were white male nationalist groups.
Yeah, and then it was the pickup artists and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I do think you can kind of see the progression of it. And like I said, I can't say that some of everyone's they weren't people that have legitimate grievances going back and forth. I will 100% agree that some of the stuff that something especially when it comes to courts and all this other stuff, and then in the sexual dating market, it could be frustrating. I can see we were all there. We were all frustrated. We're trying to get the girl that we want. We can't get it. We can't figure it out. Can't figure out why. We were all there. But like I said, at some point, if
I've
you
never
don't have a,
experienced that, LMA.
you never experienced that. Well, you're the lucky one. But anyway,
Go ahead, brother.
but yeah, but anyway, but like I think for me, it's just like you can have frustrations there, but like if you don't have a strong sense of, kind of like a Afrocentric, pro-black sense of yourself, you can easily get swayed, and then that frustration with you not being able to get the girl that you want, or your frustrations that you have with the community. Because, like I said, there's dysfunction in the black community. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah,
There's
I understand
dysfunction.
what you're saying
We
when you're
can't get
talking
around
about
it.
having an African-centered consciousness.
Right. If you don't have an actually African-centered consciousness, it's easy for your frustration with the dysfunction to turn into hatred. It's easy to do that, and I think that a lot of people in the black manosphere, they capitalized on that, and it made a lot of money, made a lot of money doing that.
Right. So yeah, tap in. I know. I think Mr. M, you were in the comments. Want you to tap in as well. Rich the African Elder. Haven't heard from you in a while. D1 Beats, brother. I know you're probably at work, but if you could tap in, would love for you to do so as well. Mike M, want you to tap in as well. Family, you watch. Come Out Fighting. Right. Want you to tap in as well. You were able to be part of the comments. And Carter, would love for you to tap in. You made a comment in the beginning stating that the modern man created the modern woman. So I definitely want to hear what want you to unpack that, be part of the conversation. So once again, Mr. Sandman, is the Black Manosphere closet white nationalism?
Yeah, I'm not inside the manosphere to know what's going on the insides and outs, but to know what they're doing behind the scenes, I won't be surprised if they're being pushed by another outside force to create like a manosphere money making scheme. I wouldn't be surprised if all of those guys work together, like the Angry Man and that other guy Fugazi. I wouldn't be surprised if they are part of the same network of people pushing that narrative for money, and they collecting or even putting together all of their money and their proceeds to keep pushing the whole the scheme. I think it's just a hustle. I think they're on YouTube making money off of it. If you could get on television and if you a half decent actor, and you don't even have to believe that stuff. You might he might be a flaming homosexual for all we know
Well,
in
I mean,
real
we see a
life.
lot of that in the Republican Party, where you have these individuals that come out as avowed anti-LGBTQ, and then you find out they've been on the down low their whole life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so hey, and you're hearing about the Actors Guild getting shut down because of COVID or what have you, and actors are not getting jobs. Hey, if I can go get on YouTube and make money independently and just act like I'm the next Kevin Samuel, then hey, that could be the whole hustle. And I just thought it was interesting that the Angry Man was commenting on what you were saying while you were talking to the dude on that show, as if he was in the back, like he was producing the show. What's the likelihood that he was just watching that show randomly, So
Right. Yeah. And
like I said,
I'm
I
glad
wouldn't
you
be
brought that
surprised
up
if it's,
because real quick, because one of the things, and my uncle watched it, and he shared with me that after I got off, he came on and said, "Listen, if anyone has a degree in a social science, don't listen to him." And then he stated that the claims I was making were farcical, that it was a myth, it was mythological, which of course isn't true because I provided historical examples for everything I stated that could be verified. But once again, that just shows the level of anti-intellectualism and how ignorant, unfortunately, these brothers oftentimes are of history. So that
yeah,
they make these broad sweeping indictments in which we know, and Malcolm X shared this with us, is unbecoming, right? It actually hurts your credibility to make broad sweeping indictments, right? But it also hurts your credibility to speak about issues, historical or contemporary, that you have no knowledge of. But once again, they are a reflection. Their audience is a reflection of the host, and so as a result, you can actually promote misinformation, and no one actually is knowledgeable enough to actually call you on it.
and to be honest with you, I think that Angry Man guy is a scam artist. To be honest with you, because if I've watched this show a couple of times, and he's even expressed that he's a convicted felon,
Okay.
and he got out of jail, and he started getting on the YouTube channels and making money off of just talking about Manosphere stuff. And at one time, I believe I tried to give him money or what have you, those super chats or what have you.
Yeah.
And then when you try to give him super chats, he'll say, no, you gotta sign up and be a part of my program and pay monthly on a monthly charges if you want to give me any type of money. I was like, Then I did a little research about the platform that he wanted me to sign up for, or wanted all of his patrons to sign up for, and it seems like they might be stealing like your information and selling it. So
Credit card information, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know. He might be a scam artist,
Gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, it just seems like when you got on there, you started telling them the truth and bringing real stuff to the game. It was like you were throwing a wrench in the hustle,
I got you. Yeah, because I had never been on the platform before, so I didn't know what it was going to be about. But I was extremely disappointed with the conversation that was had. Extremely.
Yeah, that angry man guy is like 2 times worse with the Manosphere BS than the guy that you were talking to, show that you were on.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest, I mean, that is garden variety a lot of times what you see in these spaces. I mean, most of the guys, I mean, they're just laymen. I mean, nothing against them. They're not they're not people who study this material. They just kind of hear stuff, and most of these talking points, where there's talking points that they just picked up, they're repackaging them, and then they're spewing them out. And so when they get pressed on it by someone who's an actual, historian, economist, psychologist, or whatever, then they can't, they just got egg on their face. And because their audience, is kind of bursting their collective bubble, they resist it. So it's definitely, a sad state because, like I said, these ideas can spread and take, like I said, it's on YouTube, but eventually, it's online, but eventually it's going to spill out into the real world. And
go ahead. I apologize for
yeah. I mean, and honestly, I want to say that and I want to mean to laugh at these guys, but I want to say that one of the death nails in the Black Manosphere coffin, I want to say these guys ended up on an FBI list, if I'm not mistaken. There were a few people. One of the things that made me unsubscribe to one of the he was a Manosphere guy, but I liked him. I thought he was funny and I thought he was fair. But a couple of years ago, there was a guy who ended up. It was a black man, and he ended up killing unaliving. I want you to get.
Just say
unalive.
Delete.
Yeah, he deleted the mother of his children. No, I think he deleted his girlfriend, and then the mother of his children, and then he ended up, I think, deleting himself, and his children were in the car, right? And so he was kind of lamenting. He was, doing a live stream, doing a little video, and he was lamenting about how he felt like he was getting mistreated and all this other stuff. And then he ended up going to him and saying, like, today, like, well, he said, I think one of his last words was like, today's the day or something like that before he went into the woman's house and ended up deleting her, right? And so this was, clearly a horrible, horrible crime. You know what I'm saying? Like, if anything, okay, it should be, condemned. But if you want to come in from a statement of understanding and saying like, damn, what could have pushed them? You know what I'm saying? Like, not condoning it, but just like trying to, understand it. People were pretty much like, hashtagging today's the day. You know what I'm saying? And it was basically
today's the day. What do they mean by that?
No, because the man, before he deleted the woman, the mother of his children, he was live streaming it, not live streaming, but videoing. I think it was live streaming it. And one of his things where he said like, today's the day, when he kicked down the door and he deleted her. His last words on the video was, today's the day, before he
so they were
unalived.
Wow.
And then if you would see when people were kind of like discussing it, you would see people in the live chat hashtag today's the day. Now it could be bots, you know what I'm saying? It could be some Caucasian dude, you know, just trying to stir some shit up. But, you know, some of this was homegrown. And I think, like I said, it's just the underbelly of Black society. These are our degenerates. You know what I'm saying? These are our folks that, you know, they're misanthropes. They're antisocial. This is just, I mean, some of them are antisocial and some of them just have antisocial sentiments. You know what I'm saying? They can be, you know, if you get them therapy, you get them a lot of positive role models and positive environments, that stuff will leave them. But it's just, you know, that this is just the nature. This is what the space to me devolved into. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I had to, like, you know, unsubscribe from the dude because I thought that was just too far. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to say, you know, basically, and the guy who was the channel, he was a divorce lawyer. He was a divorce, and some people may know what I'm talking about. He was a divorce lawyer, and basically he was playing defense attorney for free, you know, in the court of public opinion. You know what I'm saying? This dude had no clue what was going on. He didn't know anything about the guy's case, but he was sitting here like, you know, how would you feel if, you know, you can only see your kids, you know, once a month with supervised visits? I'm like, motherfucker, you don't know this guy's case.
Right.
And you're sitting here playing.
Let's not use the the profanity, but I'm
sorry. Yeah,
no,
but
I
mean,
but you're passionate.
Yeah,
you're passionate.
Yeah. And it was just so. I mean, it was so. You know, like I said, it was disgraceful. It was, you know, he could have just, you know, went and found the facts, and he could have just talked about it and just been objective. But he added his editorial to it, and now it's just like it's looking like you're basically saying that he was justified in unaliving this woman,
and deleting this woman,
and deleting this woman, and this was only like a day after. You don't even have all of the facts. You know what I'm saying? And then it turned out he was a frequent, you know, people do stuff like that. They look up at YouTube and all this other stuff. And he was a frequent, you know, subscriber to these spaces. So I want to say, you know, and then there was another guy who was I think he did he ignited a incendiary device. I think it was a smoke device in a subway, and then he kind of got into a shootout. I can't remember exact details, but he was, you know, someone in the space. So I think a lot of people got cold feet because they realized that the feds are watching them. Then they had, like, you know, so I think that the space kind of disbanded after that because I think some of these guys are on the FBI list and
well, let me chime in real quick. Max, I see your comment. Some of it is quite divisive, but but isn't the Manosphere movement a reflection of just overall programming at the times we are currently experiencing? You also state that the Manosphere movement have all type of men subscribing to their ideology. Men of all races are signing up to the movement. This may be true, but we're speaking about the Black Manosphere. So hopefully you could tap in and be part of the conversation. The link is in the description. The link is in the chat. Same for you. CP was here. You said peace and love. Hopefully you could tap in as well. So I want to make an important point here. So this isn't a situation where I'm attacking these platforms, and this isn't a situation in which I seek to, of course, talk about people behind their back. I reached out to both of these brothers, the Angry Man and No Fugazi, and sent them emails requesting that they can come onto my platform and we could do an interview regarding the abbreviated conversation that we had on, I think, Sunday evening. So, and very quickly, family, I just want to do this because I want to make sure that I'm able to prove what I'm saying is true. Okay, so I'm going to actually share my screen so you all can see that what I'm saying is true. And of course, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because that was the issue people made when we had a 3-part series on Inside the Nation of Islam called The Community, where people said, hey, why don't you reach out to Wesley Muhammad? Well, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, why don't you reach out to Reza Islam and then have a conversation with them? I reached out to them, email, Twitter, Instagram, on their website, and of course I didn't hear back. And this is something that Brother Dwayne Omawale shared with me, who of course we know is a resident historian here at Lumumba Speaks and Be Quilline Network. And that is typically individuals who I would argue who are engaged in a subterfuge, right? they tend to not want to have conversations with individuals who are the intellectual equal, because they know you will be able to sharpshoot the claims that they're making. So I'm going to share my screen here, family, just to let you all know that I did. So as you can see here, I sent this email on Monday at 9:43 a.m. to Mr. Cooley. Of course, I hope my email finds you well. My name is Dr. Bakari K. Lumumba. I am the progenitor of LumumbaSpeaks.com, a Black empowerment initiative that believes Black people can gain the competitive advantage by always betting on Black. And Be Equaline Network, the Pan-African social media extraordinaire and the home of African news and information. I'm sending this email to formally request an interview on my platforms, Lumumba Speaks and Be Equaline, regarding our conversation last night, debate night, with the No Fugazi podcast about first wave feminism, colonialism, and theocracy. I hope to hear from you soon, best Dr. Bakari Lumumba. I also reached out to the Angry Man. Yes, Angry Man. Hello, Angry Man. I hope my email finds you well. My name is Dr. Bakari Lumumba. Once again, I'm sending this email to formally request an interview on my platforms regarding your response to my conversation last night on the No Fugazi podcast about the status of women in traditional African societies. Hope to hear from you soon. So we can see I reached out to them the very next day, and it is now Wednesday evening. I haven't heard back from them. So I reached out to them wanting to have a deeper, more introspective conversation regarding some of the issues that we discussed, and I haven't heard back from them. And I think that's done on purpose because they don't want to be undermined.
You should have let the doctor out. You should have said, "This is Lumumba," Bakari Lumumba. As soon as they saw that doctor, I think they realized that, like I said, a lot of these guys' claims they're not going to stand up to scrutiny.
Right. Right.
And plus, like I said,
if you make a claim, you need to be able to substantiate it. We do not live in the space of innuendo and conjecture here at Lumumba Speaks and Be Equaline Network. We know there's a lot of information that's out there. We know we have been the, of course, recipients of misinformation, what Dr. Carter G. Woodson calls miseducation, right? And so we don't want to perpetuate that. We want to make sure that the work that we're doing is providing factual information to our people to help us solve what many would argue is our global social, political, and economic quagmire.
Yeah, but I think for these guys, you got to realize, like, they get paid off of this. Like, they're lively. I mean, these super chats, the YouTube partnership. I mean, that's some serious money for someone who's, either unemployed, underemployed, or after some of this shit, they're gonna be unemployable. So this is some serious money. So this is their image is all they have. So if you get up there and you start, bursting their, popping, dismantling some of their worldviews, people aren't going to come in for that. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that, excuse me. But yeah, I mean, it's a sad thing because, like I said, a lot of people, they just don't. I mean, and two, they're young. A lot of these people are just young people. You know what I'm saying? Because when you and I were young, we just had video games to kind of keep our attention, or we would just kind of hang out with people. Hang out with our friends or whatever, play video games, play basketball or whatever. That was our entertainment. We didn't have this kind of global network where, like, the worst of the worst can get your child's attention. You know, and it's just like because we will always think about, like, back when we were kids, like, don't take rides from strangers, don't talk to strangers, don't take candy from strangers, don't, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, but now it's just, but we would kind of see that and we would, like, think that, like, it's the physical stuff that is the most damaging, like someone abducting you or physically violating you in some way. We don't think about, somebody, who has messed up, false, self-destructive ideas, and then and then exposing your children to these messed up ideas. You know what I'm saying? And I think some of us have always have had bad ideas, and then, like, as we got older, we had an epiphany, and just like, damn, that was a real stupid idea. I think to myself, had I not come across certain ideas, how far along in life would I be? You know what I'm saying? Because those ideas, guided my movements in life. And I can say, like, damn, I made a bad decision, but I could also think that I made a bad decision because this is what was on my mind, and now it drove me down a path, and now I'm trying to fight my way back out of, and so, I mean, with a lot of these, like I said, these Manosphere guys, like I said, the money is just too much. Like, you can't tell the truth because the truth is not
marketable.
Profitable.
Would you say it's not marketable?
It's not marketable. I mean, but like I said, it's easier to sell that, you know, black women are this X, Y, and Z. That's an easy sell. It's a harder sell to say that, hey, you know what, maybe uh, maybe you played a part in this too. You know what I'm saying? That's
Gotcha.
going to be the hardest sell, and
Right.
it just is what it is, and people going to follow the money. And it just, you know, one guy said like the YouTube is a new crack. It's a new crack.
Mm.
It's a new crack game. You know what I'm saying? You're willing to, you know, get on this microphone and say whatever need to say. Who cares what it destroys? As long as I get paid, who cares? You know, and I create crack things or whatever. You know, just keep coming back. You know, back for more. You know what I'm saying? For more of my toxicity. You know, and if I
Then so
destroy
be
the
it.
community, so what? So
So
be
be
it.
it.
I get paid. I'm getting paid.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Understood. Understood. Max, are you going to be able to tap into be part of the conversation? But once again, I just thought that this was this was a show worth having. I found once again the issue to be extremely disconcerting. I was taken aback by the lack of knowledge. Right. I was taken aback by the willingness to make broad sweeping indictments about history when it was obvious they knew nothing about it. Right. I mean, I just was like, wow. When the brother said, well, the fact that women served in the military in African societies is why they were defeated, why Africa was colonized. I thought that was just the most nonsensical comment one can make. And I said, I've studied colonialism and the history of Europeans seeking to colonize Africa. Excuse me, and it had nothing to do with that. Right. So you can see just making these broad leaps, right? These just very ignorant, grand statements, right? And the fact that you have people, I don't know how many followers the brother has. I'm quite sure he has quite a few. And I would argue that they believe in the claims that they're making, right? Extremely simplistic. We know that history typically is nuanced, right? There are a number of variables at play, and it's not easy to dissect, right? We know real true history isn't easy to digest, right? But like I said, I was taken aback. Of course, I typically don't go on those type of platforms, but I saw the comment about the relationship between Africans and African Americans. So I just want to tap in, be part of the conversation very briefly. And I just was, like I said, and I've said this ad nauseum on tonight's platform, I was taken aback by the ignorance. Not only I would argue the willful ignorance, not only the willingness to take broad leaps in terms of describing social phenomenon in history, but also the fact that they were just willing to blame any and everything on women. Like, dude, you know nothing about African history or Europeans successfully colonizing Africa, and you're gonna say, well, it was just because women were in the military. Absolutely ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous. And so then I had to, of course, qualify my statement with the fact that I am a veteran. I served 6 years in the Army, chemical operations specialist, nuclear, biological, chemical weapons defense. My last year in the service, I served in headquarters, right? Military intelligence, right? So I had to qualify it. It blew my mind that individuals would take those type of leaps. You know what I mean? I just was like, wow. I argue that, and this is just based on my limited experience, but from what it's seen, what Kevin Samuels would say, I would argue that these spaces are echo chambers of ignorance.
That is the perfect way to describe it.
Echo chambers of ignorance, because like when Kevin Samuels first rose to notoriety, people called me and said, "Man, your big brother has a YouTube channel." I said, "No, my big brother don't got no damn YouTube channel." And they were talking about Kevin Samuels because some of the comments he made in terms of critiquing women's public social behavior is something me and my homeboys have been saying since the 2000s, right? But the more I listen, like I think he was a bit on point with relationships, but when he talks about other issues outside of relationships, politics, history, culture, like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know in his words, you don't know what the French toast you're talking about. You're outside of your lane, right? So, and to see that, I saw a clip. My cousin shared with me a clip with Tommy Sotomayor, where he started parroting white nationalist talking points. He was like, "I'm MAGA." He went on a white male nationalist platform, and they was calling him the N-word, being extremely disrespectful. And they're like, "Guys, why are you treating me this way?" Right. So we see this. My uncle listens to Anton. And my uncle said I had to stop listening to him because all of a sudden he's on the Trump bandwagon. He said you can have your issues with Kamala Harris. You could critique Kamala Harris. I think we should. That's part of the democratic process. But then you don't have any smoke for Trump. This is hypocrisy. right? If you have issues with Kamala Harris, all of a sudden claiming that she's black, all of a sudden trying to act like she's part of black culture, you don't have an issue with Trump saying that he can relate to African Americans because he has a mugshot now. Make it make sense.
Yep.
Right? Right? So I would argue that these are individuals who want the privilege and power that they believe white men have in society.
Yeah, that's how I would describe it. Yeah.
So I might write a Medium article on this issue. The Black Manosphere is it, we talk about an echo chamber of ignorance, closet white nationalism, but I like I said, I was taken aback by just the level of ignorance, right? That was on display. Like for the brother, I made historically verifiable claims, and the brother says it's all a myth. And one of the things he did was he conflated women having political, social, and economic agency with the society being matriarchal, the angry man. I never claimed that the society was matriarchal. I simply said that women had agency at a manner that white women in Europe could only dream about during the Middle Ages. Like, once again, it's just a lack of understanding history, no insight whatsoever.
Yeah. Even if you, I know you mentioned you want to write this article. I would say, I mean, the only thing that really, from me looking at you right now, like, I ain't gonna say you're kind of green, but it's like you're just now getting an introduction to the manosphere, and I think that I tried to do them, describe it the way I saw it, but I mean you have to realize, like, I think that the manosphere, they've been around for a while, but maybe 20, I think maybe 2019 or so, I may have come across them or whatever. But like, you have to realize these guys will have like 3 or 4 hour live streams, every other day or whatever. So there's like a lot of information. And like when like I said, you will see how depraved some of these guys can be. And there was one comment in the there was a Kevin, aka Mr. K, asked a question about. Can you bring it up real quick? The one about the third, the one before that.
Okay.
This one, yeah. A lot of these men, they spread the gamut. I've seen some of them as old as 60. I've seen some of them probably as young as maybe 20s. But yeah, it's a lot of 30s, 40s, and it's a lot of older. There's a lot of older, not a lot, but there are some notable older men well into their 50s. I think one guy's even in his 60s. One guy, he passed away. Like I said, and a lot of these guys, like I said, a lot of them are bitter. They're they're divorcees. They got drugged through the court system. So yeah, some of them may be a little bitter about that. And don't get me wrong, like, anyone gets drugged through the court system, you know what I'm saying? You're gonna have a bone to pick with, you're gonna have a bone to pick with society.
Right.
And that's understandable. But at some point, you have to realize, and it's one thing about putting young men on game, right? Like saying, like, okay, man, if you got money, you get married, get a prenup, right? That's just basic information, right? That's just saying, how do you protect yourself? If you see a woman doing this, make this move. Like, that's like dating advice. That I have no problem with, right? But when you start, downplaying them and just, saying that they're less than, that's where I have a problem. You know what I'm saying? Some of the stuff they have is good information. You know what I'm saying? How to protect yourself legally, how to protect yourself, mentally and emotionally, how to carry yourself in such a way if you're trying to, get women, if you're trying to enter into a relationship or whatever you want to do with that information. Some of it was good, but like I said, a lot of it was just, it was a lot of negativity. It was a lot of shit mixed in with that chocolate. That's why I got put.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, my introduction, of course, was Kevin Samuels. Some of the things he said, and then I think part of one of the reasons I think I was green was because oftentimes on Kevin Samuels' show, women would just show up and just be acting crazy, just being, So then it's like, damn, like, what, the French toast,
But that was the appeal, yeah.
But now, seeing what a lot of these brothers are promoting now, and I can understand being ran through the ringer through the court system, family court system, so on and so forth, because I've been through it. But once again, that's where that African center consciousness comes from. That's where that sense of being, or practice of being principled, comes from, to where you control the situation. You don't let the situation control you.
Yeah.
Right. You don't lose your values because you're dealing with the the vicissitudes of life, right?
Yeah.
But I just like I said, I was totally taken aback, and I
Yeah.
think this is once again is an example of why we need to have an African-centered education. I can share with you last week I was looking at joining an organization titled known as Black Men Build.
I know of them. Yeah, Black Men Bill. Yeah, I heard of them.
I attended the introductory meeting, which was on Zoom, and they made some claims that were patently false. They stated that patriarchy was Eurocentric. And I said, well, you could be opposed to patriarchy, but patriarchy isn't Eurocentric. We find patriarchy throughout the world prior to European circumnavigating the globe. Right?
Yeah.
So, and I told him, I said, hey, you don't need to make this claim because not only is it adverse to the facts, it hurts your credibility when you are in the room with people who actually know history. Right? And I said,
the one thing you can say is, I was going to say that one thing you say is the patriarchy may look different from one group of people
and
to
I
the
said
next.
That as well. I said that as well. I said what patriarchy looks like in Africa and in traditional African society is not what patriarchy look like in Europe. And I said, so what we don't want to do is engage in some of the feminist tropes of painting a broad brush, right? Taking a European model and then juxtaposing that all over the globe. That this is how all men and how all cultures operate. We know that's not only intellectually lazy, it's patently false and disingenuous, right? So I shared that with them. I said, I'm not trying to disabuse you of your beliefs that patriarchy is problematic. Do your thing, thug it out, right? But don't make claims that are patently false. It hurts your credibility. And I said, just like today, you had someone in the room who knew the history. And next thing you know, you were fumbling and bumbling like Magic Johnson in 1991 at his retirement press conference, right? Don't make claims that you can't substantiate. I said, it's that simple, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's something I was taught when I began to, engage in public speaking. I wanted to talk, kind of be a public intellectual. People said, listen, and these are elders. If you're going to do that, you better make sure you know what the French toast you're talking about, because if you make a claim that's false, it hurts your credibility. We saw this with Dr. Umar Johnson. He made a number of claims that were false, that were adverse to the facts. They brought him on TV. He thought he was going to get some publicity, and they said, well, you said XYZ. We found out that isn't true. I give you an example. He stated that Buddha means black face. Cap City.
Yeah.
Right. He stated that Mandarin was was an official language in South Africa. Cap City. Right. So we don't want to do that to hurt our credibility. And we know that one of the biggest, and maybe this is just for me who was in the industry, one of the biggest criticisms of Black studies is that it's not a real academic discipline because we just make stuff up. So we don't want to play into that stereotype, but not actually doing the research. So I always tell people all the time that these books behind me, this isn't a thumbnail, right? This isn't a screensaver. These are real books that I've read. I say Black Power. So just want to make sure we're knowledgeable of that. Kevin, aka Mr. K, says, and it just also seems a lot of them are just book dumb who get very jealous of someone who is book smart enough to challenge and check them on the historical illiteracy and historical falsehoods. You may be right about that, brother. You may be right about that. Like I said, he said, don't trust someone who has a degree in a social science. You may be you may be cooking with fish grease there because it did seem that way. And we tend to find that, unfortunately, in individuals who take on a very dogmatic approach, they tend to take issue with people who are intellectuals, people who can actually articulate how and why they are wrong and how and why their position it would actually do more harm than good. They tend to want to try to eliminate those people. We find this in a number of dictatorial societies that are autocratic. We tend to find that these type of leaders tend to try to eliminate intellectuals. We found this in China during the 70s. During the Mao Revolution. I hope I'm dating that correctly. And then we even find this oftentimes unfortunately on the African continent, even in the Caribbean, right, where individuals who are autocratic, dictatorial leaders tend to try to eliminate intellectuals, eliminate anyone who is able to intelligently articulate why and how one's regime or of course administration is not in the best interest of the people they're purported to serve. So that is something, of course, to consider. So, brother, LMA, I'm gonna let you close us out unless someone else is gonna tap in. But I definitely appreciate you coming in, being a great contributor. You know, you're always welcome here. My brother that dribbles down the VA, right? But you really had a lot to, of course, offer to this conversation, and I greatly appreciate that.
Oh no, and I appreciate you for having this topic because like you can kind of tell that the manosphere. I just think that the Black manosphere. I just think they just did a disservice to. I mean, they did a disservice ultimately to the Black community. I think that their words, it's going to reverberate throughout history, and I think that in 10 years when some little 8-year-old boy who came across this, what I'm saying, unwittingly, and he's going to absorb this stuff, we're going to be dealing with it in 10 years. And I hope that, you know like I said, I hope some of these guys can see the error of their ways and then change it. I give a little bit of grace, because a lot of people, there's this, like I said, in the Black community, there is dysfunction, there is hurt, there is pain, there, and that can change the way you view the world, and you're going to act on that view. You know what I'm saying? So I give people grace, but that still doesn't mean that what these guys did was okay.
Right.
A couple of things I want you to. I'm gonna try and find the videos, and I'm trying to put it in the comment section. There was a guy, Omawale Africa. I don't know if you ever heard of him.
Yes, I have heard of him. Yes.
Yeah, he did a video a couple years back on the Manosphere. Basically, taking them to task. He brought up some really good points. I'm gonna try and find. I mean, like I said, I'm gonna try and find the lowlights. You got like highlight reel. I'm trying to find like
you could just send me the video. Well, actually, what I would do, yeah, if you could send me the video, and then because matter of fact, I try to bring him on, and we can have a
he's been inactive. Yeah, he's been inactive for a while, but he was a great voice, particularly in the Pan African sector. I hope he's doing well. I haven't heard from him in a while. I think he did like a video maybe a couple of weeks ago, so I think he's still amongst us. I think he's probably just busy, took like a little hiatus or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, he did some good points. There was another brother. I'll try and find you some videos, but yeah, I'm gonna try and find like the videos of particularly of the lowlights. Like I said, there's some really just messed up people. Like I said, if I had my way, I'd throw them all in bleach, strip all, turn them into the white men they want to be. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. That's a great point.
So
great point. All right, brother. I appreciate you once again, everybody. Real quick, brother Lumumba, can your appearance on the Black Manosphere be watched online on YouTube? Yes, it can. Yes, you could go to Lumumba Speaks on YouTube, and of course, it'll be the latest video on my channel. I try to come in for the call, but my mic won't switch. Do you polygamy is an answer? I would assume you're saying polygamy. I really don't know. I think you would have to, share with us what you believe the manosphere issues are, in terms of that being a solution to the alleged problem. So, yeah.
Yeah, polygamy.
Yeah.
That's the answer.
So I would, yeah, but I don't know. I don't know, but because like I said, if you look at it from a traditional African standpoint, you have to be a provider for all of those women equally, right? And we live in a very extremely expensive society. I don't know if that's realistic. I think oftentimes what we find is a lot of brothers are promoting polygamy simply because they have a voracious appetite, right? Insatiable appetite, in which they need more than they don't believe one woman can please them. So that is something to, of course, consider. But I just want to let you all know, this coming Friday, we're going to be doing a show on introduction to African religions. We know we've had a number of conversations about regarding the critique for Abrahamic religions, but I think we'll be remiss in our duty if we don't bring that conversation full circle by educating our brothers and sisters on traditional African religion. So I'm thinking about putting together a PowerPoint for you all, and then we can dive into some deeper questions. So until next time, family, y'all know what to do. Peace. Make sure you always bet on Black.